When the world looked toward Spain, they expected elegance, tradition, and beauty. But no one expected this. When Princess Leonor said, "I do," Europe stopped breathing. For a single moment, everything, royal duty, history, and love, collided in one unforgettable heartbeat. The royal chapel was silent. Centuries of Spanish tradition rested in the air, heavy and sacred. As Leonor stood before the altar, her hands trembling slightly, it wasn't just a wedding, it was the birth of a new chapter for Spain itself. The future queen was taking a vow not only of love but of destiny. Every camera lens trembled. Every whisper died in awe. The gown, a masterpiece of Spanish heritage, shimmered under the cathedral's golden light. The veil, delicate and endless, carried whispers of royal generations before her. And yet, it wasn't the dress or the jewels that stunned Europe, it was the tears in her eyes. The world saw not a crown, but a young woman saying yes to love in front of an empire. Her parents, King Felipe and Queen Letizia, exchanged glances filled with pride and emotion. For the king, it was the passing of legacy. For the queen, it was the bittersweet surrender of a daughter she once carried in her arms, now stepping fully into history. When Leonor's groom turned to face her, the chapel seemed to pulse with emotion. He was not just a man marrying a princess, he was becoming part of a story that would be told for generations. Their eyes met, and for a moment, titles, nations, and expectations disappeared. There was only love. The vows began. Each word carried the weight of centuries. "I, Leonor, take you," her voice quivered, and Europe leaned closer. It wasn't just a statement, it was a promise that echoed from Madrid to London, from Copenhagen to Rome. When she finally whispered, "I do," even the chandeliers seemed to tremble. The applause didn't come immediately. It was as if the world needed a second to understand what had just happened. A future queen had chosen love, openly, fearlessly, and before all of Europe. Reporters would later describe it as the moment Spain's monarchy became human again. Others called it a royal fairy tale rewritten. But for those who were there, it was something far deeper, a once-in-a-lifetime fusion of duty and devotion. Outside, the crowd roared. Bells rang from every corner of Madrid. Flags waved. Strangers embraced in the streets. Elderly Spaniards wiped tears from their eyes. They remembered King Felipe's wedding decades before, but this felt different. This was a new dawn. As the couple stepped out onto the palace balcony, Leonor's gown caught the wind. It was almost symbolic, the weight of history lifting slightly, carried by love. Below, thousands chanted her name. Some cried, some smiled. All stood together, witnessing a union that felt both personal and historic. Inside the palace, moments unfolded quietly away from cameras. Queen Letizia embraced her daughter with trembling hands. "You did it, my love," she whispered. Leonor smiled, whispering back, "For Spain. For us." It was a moment of mother and daughter, queen and princess, woman and woman, bound by love, destiny, and pride. The reception that followed was a spectacle of royal grace. Dignitaries from across Europe arrived with gifts, each symbolizing alliances, friendship, and shared hope. Yet amid the glittering chandeliers and orchestral music, the bride and groom remained humble, stealing private glances, small touches of hands that spoke louder than any royal decree. King Felipe raised his glass for the toast. "Today," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion, "we celebrate not only a union of two hearts, but the strength of a nation that believes in love above all." The hall erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. But in that instant, Leonor's eyes filled once again, not for the cameras but for her father's words. Later that night, as the royal couple danced, time seemed to slow. The melody was soft, the moment timeless. The crowd faded into the background. All that remained was the princess, the man she loved, and the promise that their love would define a new era for Spain. But behind the beauty was pressure, the quiet tension that no one dared speak of. The expectations of a nation. The scrutiny of the press. The whispers about her future as queen. Could she balance love with duty? Could she be both sovereign and wife? Europe wondered, but Leonor's calm, radiant smile answered them all. Yes, she could. As dawn approached, the palace grew silent once more. The celebrations had ended, but the world was still watching. Newspapers across Europe printed her photo on the front page. The royal moment that stunned Europe, one headline read. Another simply said, "She said yes, to love and to history." In private, Leonor sat by the window, still in her gown, crown slightly tilted, looking out over Madrid. The city slept, unaware of the tears that slipped quietly down her cheek. They weren't tears of sadness. They were the tears of a woman who had just taken her first step into forever. And in that silence, she whispered softly, to herself, to her ancestors, to her people, I will make them proud. That night became legend. Not because of the diamonds, not because of the crown, but because a princess dared to be human in front of the world. And Europe, for the first time in a long time, saw a royal wedding not as a performance, but as love, pure and powerful. When Princess Leonor said, I do, she didn't just unite two hearts. She awakened a continent. She reminded us all that behind the crowns and castles, the most powerful thing of all is love. Because in the end, even royalty bows to the heart.